Hey, Jeannie Lynch, welcome back to my YouTube channel. And I love sharing the beautiful stories, spiritual modalities, and teaching you intuition and teaching you ways to help heal yourself. And I will tell you, there's nothing that helped me heal more after the passing of my daughter when I started to explore spirituality. In fact, you can check out my whole channel. My whole channel is based on everything that I'm learning and continuing to learn. Well, today we're going to talk about a woman who had a near-death experience. And she actually got to the other side, and let's just say it wasn't all light and fluffy clouds. She had this experience where she believes she was in hell. She found her way through hell to the other side and then was told to come back. And as you guessed it, she has a message to share. I love this topic, and I love the idea that we create our heaven. Remember, a year ago, I posted a video, and I'll put that up here, and we also experience our hell, whether there or here. That's the conversation we're having today, so stay listening, stay watching. That interview is coming up next. Yay! Thank you so much for accepting an invitation today to talk. So whether the audience is listening to us on podcast or on my YouTube channel in HD color, we certainly will acknowledge the audience first and say thank you for being part. So today, I just have to set my audience up a little bit. I love your topic. Now, they don't know what it is yet, so this will be the hook too. We're talking today about a near-death experience, and you're going to share with us, what that experience was and take us through all the things that it taught you and kind of where you are today and what you're doing with this beautiful, we'll call it a modality, because it's an experience. And I have this beautiful list on my YouTube channel called Spiritual Stories Worth Sharing. And I put that little cue out on our podcast group, and you quickly responded. And I looked briefly over your notes, which you're going to explain in a minute, and I knew I had to have you on. So yay, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? I don't know you, so we get to learn, and the audience gets to learn you together. So welcome very much.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yes, I started off with a fairly normal life, I think. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved every 2.5 to 4 years, which is a little tough for children growing up. You never get a band of friends that you can hang on to. So that was a little tough. And then finally, we ended up on the West Coast in a wonderful resort town, and that's where my dad retired. So that was wonderful. I was in high school at the time. So I stayed there for about 35 years and had a business. I was a property manager. I started my own business. And then my former fiance, someone I was very much in love with for a long time, but he was being transferred to the East Coast, and I couldn't give up my life and go there because he was already a workaholic and it was going to get worse. So anyway, he called me.
How old are you at this place in your life?
I was about 50.
Okay, so
about 50.
You hadn't been married yet. You're 50.
No.
Okay.
I had been married twice and divorced twice. I was a single mom, raised 2 kids, put them through college. So
Got it. Okay.
I've been a doer.
I thought maybe the first love came around and you were like, no, I can't go. And I'm going, wait a minute, you jumped on me. Okay. So I want to follow your timeline too. So at this point in your life, you're around 50. The man goes to the other side. You decide you got to stay because of how rooted you were in that community. Okay, we're back.
Right. And so a couple of years went by with him on the East Coast. And then he called me and said, I kind of come out and see you. I've got something to tell you. And I thought, oh, great. What's that? What's going on? Because we'd stayed in touch. He was still my best friend. And he had leukemia. I about fell out of my chair. I said, what? And because he was only 51. Oh. And I said, well, criminy. And he says, I need some help. I'm going to Seattle, and I've found a research hospital, and there's nothing more the doctors can do for me here. So I'm a guinea pig, but something might work. And so long story short, up I went. I dropped everything and went up there, and it was only going to be 3 to 5 months. It was, and luckily I had just sold my business, so I was a little freer. But by the time I got up there, there was another caregiver. So there was 3 of us, and day and night for, well, it was almost 8 months. It was trauma, just trauma. He would get better. He'd go to bed at night. He'd wake up bleeding. His nose is bleeding. They couldn't stop the bleeding. We'd get him back to the hospital. We lived only a block away.
So help me understand too, like what your place is in this. Are you going out there to help care for him because he is a terminal illness and he's passing, or are you going out trying to help save his life?
Try and save him.
Okay, got it.
Try and save him. They said he had an X% chance of making it if they got the right concoction of drugs. And if not, then, oh, well, he helped maybe down the road finding a better solution for other people. So it was
what a sacrifice. Can I just acknowledge, what's his name, by the way, or what is his name?
Patrick.
Okay. So I want to take a second just to acknowledge Patrick. I know somebody in my experience who, wife died of not similar, but cancer. And it got to a point where there was nothing more they could do. And she basically, and I know this sounds a little off, but I think it's what you're saying, she donated herself. She knew she was going to pass. She donated herself and the studies to other people. So she continued to take the treatment and be sick and, thinking that possibly it could help someone out. So
That's what he did.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
He was that way. He was just that way. So he died and I was exhausted and freaked. I really didn't expect him to die. And I caught a flu that was going around, which is similar to the COVID thing. And in very quick order, within a matter of days, I was in the hospital. I had gone to a doc in a box. My vitals stopped. They resuscitated me, got me to a hospital, threw me in, put me in oxygen. That wasn't working. They called my family, said she's really sick. We're going to have to put her in a coma and put an intubator and try. And it's called lung failure. It's acute respiratory distress syndrome, which is ARDS. At the time, I had a 38% chance of making it. I was healthy to that point, but I was so anyway, I'm going, what, but I'm sick as a dog. I mean, I've never been that sick, obviously.
Let me ask you too, at the time, because you had just cared for him, and we all know that caring for someone can sometimes have ill health on us, right? So is your immune system down at the point and stuff because you were doing all that caring for him and now you're sick and that helps.
Yeah, I no sleep, no sleep for more than a couple of hours, eating at irregular times, and the stress, terrible stress. So they said, okay, my family was there. They said, we've got to put her in a coma and so she can breathe and we'll figure it out as we go along, because at that time they didn't know much about ARDS. Most people died. Your lungs fill up with liquid, turn to cement, you die. I mean, there was no medication they could find to give you. So anyway, I didn't know any better. I said, sure. And they said, look, we're going to give you something called white amnesia. You're not going to remember a thing. You'll be comfortable. You'll just go to sleep and you'll wake up and you'll be fine. So I said, all right. And my dad gave me the thumbs up from outside the window there. He was the last one to say goodbye. I gave him a thumbs up and boom, I'm gone. Well, I woke up somewhere. I thought I was in a closet. It was completely black. There was no sound. And I thought, what is going on? I don't know where I am. And the scene kind of morphed. It got to be kind of this reddish glow and hot. And I could hear people moaning and shrieking. And I thought, oh, maybe the hospital, maybe. And then finally this voice boomed out of nowhere and said, do you know where you are? I thought, this can't be good. And I thought, I hope I'm wrong. And I just said, hell? And booming laugh comes out like a Bela Lugosi. And it scared what out of me. I turned in the darkness, not knowing where I was or if I was standing on anything, and ran. So that started out my experience on the other side. It was one in which I never knew I was dead. I just thought I was not in Kansas anymore. I was running for my life from demons and terrible situations. They would put me in these terrible situations where I had to do something which was against what I would have done on earth, you know.
And you knew that in this place, you knew it was against your
It was
world.
real.
And, yeah.
It was real. This was not a dream. I really was really someplace else. Yeah. And so it went on. And long story short, it's all in the book. I had to write it all out. It felt like about 2 years. I was in this terrible situation, this terrible place. And they would tell me, just despair. You're not getting out of here. This is what your existence is going to be like. And I'm a fighter. And I said, no, I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to get out. It may take a while. I was very tired and I was starting to lose hope. And I had said to this demon woman who was with me and a bunch of other ladies in a very bad situation, I said, you know, this feels like a particularly bad place, feeling today. I don't know. I've been here a long time, but somehow there's this heaviness. What's going on? And she says, oh, on earth, it's Christmas. It's always the worst day in hell. And I thought, boom, all these lights go on. And I was just freaked. And so I felt, all right. So I started singing Away in a Manger. I knew it. It was Christmas. And that's my favorite song for Christmas. And that the demon lady was not happy with that. She yelled, stop it. And the other ladies, one at a time, started singing the song too. And the demon lady, is not happy. So finally it gets to the part where it's the little Lord. And all of a sudden she shrieks and comes at me. And down there, I would just put my hands over my eyes and I'd find myself in another situation. But this time it was light. It was beautiful light everywhere. And I had this feeling of love and bliss. And I was joyful and happy. And everything that had gone before in hell was erased from my mind. And I looked around and there's my friend Patrick.
No.
I noticed that he looked wonderful. He looked younger. He was actually wearing a sweater that I'd purchased him for Christmas. And he was smiling ear to ear. And I was so happy. And I realized that if he was dead, then I was dead. And that I was in heaven and we were going to be together. And he was going to show me things. And he hesitated and then just said, Mary Kay, which is what he and my dad always call me. You've got too much left to do. And I thought, what? That doesn't sound good. And I remembered looking over at the behind him was like this architect's table with this huge book open. And I remembered all of a sudden he had said, he was telling me what was in this book. And I said, oh, no. That's going to be too hard. I want to stay here with you.
Okay.
And that went through my mind as he's saying, you have to go back. And I just said no. And I stomped my foot again in heaven. Your soul is you, So I found that out later because I was never not me. I found myself kind of wandering down this beautiful stream, heading back. I think maybe God was cooling me off because I was very angry. And once I got there at the bottom of the stream, I talked to a couple of people who told me what to say to somebody when I got back. And boom, I wake up. I can't move. It's hot. I'm looking around and there's my family. It's dawning on me who these people are who are going, cheering and clapping their hands and stuff. And I thought, where am I? And then I thought, oh no, oh no, I'm just so mad. And they were just telling me now, Mom, you've been really sick. You've been gone for 3 weeks and you're going to be better. And turns out I weighed 86 pounds. And here's rotating in my little brain, you've got too much left to do. And it was like a really bad joke. I thought, I can't even move. How am I going to get all this stuff done so I can go back home? And that's what heaven is. It's home. Yeah. So it was a little tough after that. It was terrible.
So much is in there. So much is in there. So I want to kind of pull it back a little bit so my audience can follow this, because I've done a lot of studies on what you've just said. So you mirror so much. I was always amazed in this story because, there's so much information out there. You can Google this, near death experiences, and
No.
spend the rest of your life listening to people like you tell these stories. And what fascinates me is they have a lot in common, but yet everyone's experience and perception, just like in our life, is so different. So
Correct.
I want to just ground or tie to some things that you said. I was praying once after my daughter passed for hope and help to get through the day. Okay. And one of the things that God answered in a prayer was God, whoever sent me somebody like you who had an experience. He said almost word for word. He didn't have to go to hell first in his scenario, but he was mad when he got back. He was in my office at work crying, telling me this story. And I was like, "Are you sad?" And he goes, "I just missed the place." It's so hard to come back to this after you've experienced that. And that's where I want to kind of go from here. So you learned so much. Did you go right into a depression after, or is it because you're not well that you could take me there? Because when you said it was hard, and I want to go there.
Once I knew I was back, I said, I'm going to get my life back. If I'm going to be here, I'm not going to end up in a convalescent home the rest of my life, because I had overheard the doctor say, we don't know how brain damaged she is.
Got it.
She probably won't be able to drive or hold a job, maybe not walk. We just don't know. And that made me mad. And I thought, no, if I've got to get all this stuff done, I'm going to get my life back. Well, that started with convincing the insurance company that I was worth a month of their money to go to a physical rehab facility or just be left to die in a convalescent hospital. That took some doing, and I had to try and convince this lady as I lay there in my bed, unable to move. So they gave me a month, and week by week, I had to report. The doctors had to report if I did not make great progress every week off to the convalescent hospital. So I was a lady on a mission, and I did everything I possibly could. Just before I was supposed to be let go, one of my lungs had collapsed while I was dying, and they had managed to ply some of it open. So I had a pretty bad left lung, and now the right one started to collapse a couple days before I was supposed to leave. So they had to put a tube in my chest. I was awake, and it was awful. And I kept saying to God, if you really got all this stuff you want me to do, you're going to have to give me a hand here.
Light up on me, right?
Yes. I need some help. So I finally got out, and
How long were you in? 2 out,
4 weeks.
Okay. Wow.
4 weeks in a
months,
hospital.
you're going to say, but okay, 4 weeks.
Yeah, I had to get it all together, and but they would let me out when I hit 100 pounds, and the nurse had to step on the scale. I couldn't make 100, so she let me out. And so I was very weak, needless to say. I got my life back, and then the depression started pretty much after that, when I was home alone with my thoughts.
Got it.
And so I thought, I didn't know what had happened to me. I'd never really heard of near-death experiences. So I thought, I'm a writer. I've always been. And I just started writing it out. I thought, if I could just get it on paper, maybe I can get it out of my head, because maybe it was just a bad dream, but I knew it wasn't. Long story short, again, I finally, through synchronicities, found IANDS, the International Association of Near-Death Studies, in Seattle. That's where they had the main.
Right there,
yeah, it was an hour away from me. And you're big on intuition. The voice is something that people hear a lot more strongly when they come back. It's usually that little thing in your head that says, I don't know if you should be doing that or not, but it gets really strong when you get out.
Okay.
And it insisted that I go up and go to these meetings. I mean, it would not stop. And so I did. First one, I thought, all these people just went to heaven. Nobody else went to hell. I don't belong here. And so it was a month later when I said, I'm not going back. And the voice says, oh yeah, you are. and you need to meet somebody. And that was fun. I did meet somebody, and I told her, I said, geez, I was supposed to meet you today. She said, oh, I know. And I said, now, how did you know? She says, well, didn't you hear the voice? The voice told me. And she says, oh, that's all right. You'll get used to it. So that was kind of fun. And so the more I went, the more I learned. And I found only, 2 or 3 people that have written books about this dark, they called it dark or distressing near-death
What year are
experiences.
we in now? Because
This is about 11 years later after my experience. I have been fumbling about.
so let's do that. Let's go to your book then. Is your book about this whole story? And how long ago did you write the book? I know you're kind of like out in the community now. This is why you're podcasting and meeting with me to talk about this book. So because it's so much of what you're doing right now, I will put all the links for people listening and watching to all your social media links. So you don't have to say that because they'll be in the description below. But take us through what your book's intention is, where can you get the book, and what are you doing with the book now that it's written? Please.
Yes, I finally decided to write the book. Somebody at the conference, in addition to Nancy, who was a medium, I didn't understand about mediums either, says, you need to write a book. And I said, hello? So I did. And it took quite a while. It was published last June.
Got it.
And it's called Misfit in Hell to Heaven Expat. I was the misfit in hell because I wouldn't do what they told me. And all of us are heaven expats. An expatriate is somebody who lives in one country and then goes to another country to do their work. And when they get the work done, they go home. So we all start in heaven, which is what I found out.
I've never heard that term before. Is that your term, or is that actually
no, that's in the vernacular. Yeah, an expatriate. They call them expats.
Okay.
So we're all heaven expats. So that's what the book is, A Misfit to Hell to a Heaven Expat. And it's on Amazon. And I have a website with the same www and then the name of the book.
Okay.
And Hell to Heaven Expat.
So are you working with people today? Tell me what you're doing. Are you in service to other people? Do you have a business that supports people through this process in any way? So
yes.
You've been there. People are going to want to know,
right?
What can you offer them in your light and your understanding of the other side? Take us there. That's great.
You don't have to go to hell. Period. It's very obvious now, and anybody who's been there, that God is just total love. He is very forgiving. He would never condemn anybody. And after all these years and figuring it out, talking to other people, I created my own hell. Mm-hmm. Being a Catholic, I was taught from day one that most people, maybe not Mother Teresa, but most people will go to purgatory before they go to heaven, because you have to have your sins burned off before you can appear in purity before God. And I bought that, and I lived my life understanding that would happen to me.
Yeah.
And so I believed it, and I was not disappointed. I got to go to purgatory, and it was only later when I found out I didn't have to go. So nobody has to go. And that's the subtitle of my book. It says very clearly on the cover, Lessons from a Dark Near-Death Experience and How to Avoid Hell in the Afterlife. This is why I've been set back.
I have to stop you there too, because I do the medium work, right? So I know a lot of what I believe I know, whatever that means, right? What I say, the information that comes through is that, and you said it when you said, we create our own heaven, our understanding is perception, right? So if we believe like you did, and guess what? I was brought up the same way. So my joke is I'll be in therapy for the rest of my life being brought up Catholic, because I had to reprogram my brain to be more expansive than the confines. And I'm not, please don't start commenting below about, because I believe in God and Jesus and all that. I don't want that to be anything on my newsfeed, but I do want to just say that in my experiences, it was just so contained. My Catholic belief was just so contained, and there was so much more out there. So you also had that experience, and this is what your message is, that not that you chose to go to hell, but I believe when you were telling your story that you were there so you could come back and say, there's a choice. and you don't have to go there. And I love that.
That's right. And
I
if
love
when
that.
they read the book, you can see the hellish experiences that went on in my life when I was here were almost taken down there and says, okay, this is what hell feels like. Let's do it again, but in a bigger way. Yeah,
So
it's
here's a
nice not to
question.
worry about that.
Here's a question. I say that the one gift my daughter gave me when she left was that I'm not afraid to die. I think we're all afraid to end up with COVID, lung cancer, and have to suffer through it, right? So
Mm,
everyone, I mean, we're in a physical body and we understand why that would be upsetting.
yeah.
That I'm trying to get to the point of the fear about it. I know what I know about the other side. So here you are. You had to go through that whole process of integration, coming back and getting back into your body and sharing your message and writing it up. Are you looking forward to the day that you do go back? Are you back in your body and now are you back to being afraid to die? Or where are you with that? Just curious.
That's interesting. I'm a human being again. So part of me, that little 1% is still saying, "Oh Lord, do you think you're going to have to do that again?" But the 99% says, "No, I'm going to straight shot it," as my sister says. I'm going to straight shot it back. And I had something fun happen with my dad when he passed away, because for the last many years since all this happened, he and I had quite a few conversations. So just before he passed, I got to talk to him a little bit. And I could talk to him on the phone, and I said, "What are you going to do when you get to heaven, Dad?" And he said, "Fly." And I says, "Great." So he was in a good space. Again, nobody likes to die. So I heard later, after he did pass, when they called the next morning, they said that Dad was going and is having trouble breathing, and he was kind of anxious. And then and all of a sudden he stopped and he looked up at the ceiling and he got this big smile and he closed his eyes and passed. And so all of the people that saw him said something happened. Somebody came and got him. And then my medium friend, I'll shorten it up how she found out, but yeah, it was his mom and his sister who came and got him.
Oh, I just love that.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying too. And for the audience who's listening, goes back a couple interviews ago, I said to somebody, were you prepared for this loss that you had in your life? And she said, the time to prepare for loss is before loss.
Yeah.
And same for the spirit or the soul who's leaving. So I sat with a man for years, Bill. I mean, the family knows I did a lot of end of life stuff with him. We did an end of life interview. And like you with your dad, we had many conversations about where he was going and what it was going to be like. And I have him on video actually saying, we're down at the Jetties where he used to be with his wife and have coffee. I said, "Is this going to be your heaven? He goes, "Yeah, this would be good. This is a pretty good place to start." And that just brought so much peace to us, right? So that, because we know that he knew. And so that's the message today. And I have to apologize because I had this whole list of interview questions. I have not asked one. Okay. And yet this conversation just totally flew, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be, which is opening up the door to anyone who's listening, the idea that there's more than just this life, that now is the time to start preparing, and that to do the investigation and to learn about what's out there beyond our religion or the rest of it, so that we can be prepared and just live life fully. Do you agree?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let's see, is there anything else do you have anything else that you can think of that when you knew I was going to do this interview today, you wanted to make sure got said? And is there something that is your platform and you want people to know? I think you said it when you say we have a choice of hell and heaven when we get there, but is there something else that you could leave as a spiritual message for the people who are listening before we move into our rapid fire?
Yeah. What I found out was that in talking to a lot of the IANDS people too, that we really start off in heaven, and we come down to earth on purpose. We choose our lives. We choose the people that are going to be in it. We choose our challenges, all these things that we want to learn while we're here. So all of us have chosen our lives. And what that did for me is to change my conversation with God of, why do you keep doing these things to me, God? Why did I lost a daughter? Why did all these things? Now I say, oh, I chose that. There must be a lesson here. And I don't feel like a victim anymore. I think that's the most freeing thing of all.
I have to tell you, I just finished writing a book with 20 other women. And my message in that book, which is coming out July 30th, is we wanted the experience, you know? So I want to mirror what you said, but dig a little deeper to it too. I think that we hear, you know, life lessons and how many lessons and what'd you learn? And, you know, like God's school is this tumultuous thing that we have to get through to endure, and then we can make it to the other side. But I think what's deeper than that, and what you're saying, is that we're here not just to learn the lesson of it, but to experience it. That when we're in love and we're making love, those are two totally different things.
Yes.
When we're making love, we're feeling love. When we're showing up in compassion and we're being kind to another human being, they're receiving that act, and they're feeling that. We need a physical body to feel it. So that's another question. So I can dive in with you because you're an expert at this. Do you feel the same way when you're there, or is it minus the physical body?
The body to me is like a car. Now I'm in the car, I'm not the car, but my spirit, me, is me. And if I'm in a body, then I feel, I touch, I smell, I do all those things. But the real me is the same in heaven. I didn't even, you don't know you're dead. It's just that simple.
So many people needed to hear that too. I went through the whole post-traumatic stress after my daughter died, and I started flying out involuntary out of body. And as you know, out of body and OBEs and EBOs, they're slated to be very similar acts in the sense that the cord isn't cut. I know the cord is never cut. That's a wrong way to say it, but you got further than I've ever gone. But I've been out of my body record times, documented it, could finally get to a point where I could do them on my own, like go into a meditation and fly out. So like you, I know what I know. And I know what I saw is never anything that I saw in a movie. I don't have I don't have that brain to tell you what I saw. Did you have that experience?
Oh yeah, we've got this little tiny human brain, and this so huge out there. It's a wonder we can learn as much as we do.
Yeah. So I loved meeting you today.
Thank you.
I do. You are absolutely a light, and I loved reading. So everybody who's listening or watching, reach out, comment below if you have questions. I'll ask you too, you know, when this shows up on YouTube and then turns into a podcast, I like a lot of engagement with people commenting and stuff. So I'll be sharing that information. People can reach right out to you. Your links will be below. And I think that sounds great. Are you ready to roll into rapid fire?
Sure.
Okay, let's do this. This is where it's fun. The music's kicking up. We got to end. Thank you so much for being on today. I truly do appreciate your time. So we're going to go through some questions, and they happen fast. What is your favorite spiritual book or teacher? Just one.
Course of Miracles.
Did you do all that work?
They had a abridged version. I did that one.
If you were going to change the world today, the world needs what in order to be changed?
Kindness.
Agreed. If we all come here with a life lesson, we talked about this in our interview, what do you think your life lesson has been?
Probably to be less judgmental.
We could all learn from you. Thank you. And what do you love about yourself?
I am open-minded.
Love that. And what are you doing, Kathy, when you're experiencing absolute joy?
Crying.
Okay.
Tears of joy.
Tears of joy. And anyone, if you're listening out there, you needed to hear that today. If you're grieving a loss of a loved one, why are you grieving? They're right there with you, maybe not physically. So grieve the fact that you can't emotionally touch them. I get that. But just know that they've never left your side. Would you mirror that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're right there.
So let's say goodbye to everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So when you make it to the other side, do you think you'll hang out here in your heaven? You think this will be your heaven?
Could be. I couldn't think of a better place.
That's awesome.